Hey, what is up, interwebs students from all across the globe? If we have lots of students across the globe, welcome back. It is another session of the GQAzndood Gaming Academy, along with your faculty members here in the backstage. So it is May 13th, 2025 at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in our little tiny city here of Bellingham, Washington. That's where the main office is for the academy. So welcome back, guys. It is an honor to do another one of these. I think we're up to class 31 now. So man, it's I feel like it's gone so fast, so quick. So fire up those brain cells and boot up your consoles. We're diving into another jam-packed session here. So this week in gaming history, we're going to be bringing the heat, but the heat is going to be brought by the tag also when we break down the newest Fatal Fury game with the Young Wolf here. Plus, we got headlines, hot takes, and a rhetorical question at the end here that'll get you thinking of what could be and what if could be. And don't forget, this whole month we're raising money for St. Jude all month long, so make sure to share the stream, and it's going for a good cause. So with that said, as always, we got a lot of content to get through, and let's get everybody introduced here. So of course, a man that needs no introduction, the guy that the proprietor of a Tilt at the local arcade here for years and years. I would also call my comrade in arms here at the mall, Mr. Ace Nelson.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back. We've got this week's session is going to be. I know I say this every week, but I feel like this. I feel like this week especially, we've got some pretty good stuff to talk about. So hopefully plenty of you join in because class participation is always welcome.
Yeah, and this is the place where you want to chat live, with about certain topics and specific topics and news. And we try to cover everything. We try to stay out of the drama, but we do try to cover everything game related as of recent and also historically, kind of learn from that as well. And if you take something away from the show, hopefully it's positive and hopefully it's something you can benefit your life a little bit better. And speaking of, the person that brings us all the news and updates for the show, the brain, the man in his in the Tower of Night City, the tragically elite.
Hey guys. Number 31, huh?
31 is a lot.
We almost timed it perfectly with Sega Saturn's 30th anniversary.
Pretty close. Only close. We started early.
So if we just took that 1 week off, we would have landed up perfectly.
Yeah,
How dare we not think of that?
I did take a week off. But yeah, and this episode is called The Rings of Saturn, just because I feel like Saturn is a very underappreciated system, much like the Dreamcast, right? And arguably the better console between the PlayStation versus the Saturn, but it just didn't have that marketing power, kind of like the battle between the iPod and the Zune, if you guys remember that.
I think a lot of it, as always, comes down to the games you want to play. We have that same argument almost every single console generation. There's always one that's like, man, this would be really good if it had the games I wanted to play.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And to me, like, the Saturn was a better and faster system than the PlayStation. And it did have a lot of like arcade games that I really wanted to play. But I think, like, honestly, it was about accessibility for me when I first got wind of the Saturn. None of my video game stores had it. They all had PlayStation. So I wasn't able to kind of get my hands on it.
I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit, but just like the cost of it back in the day kind of reminds me a little bit of just like when the 3DO came out. That didn't have all the games, but I had a few that were really good, but then the price of the console was super restrictive. You mentioned the ads, all the Rings of Saturn ads and how messed up and weird they were. Didn't really sell the console.
It's true. That Sega marketing was kind of out of this world, per se, right?
Man, they were right wave of how well they did during the Sega Genesis era and Sega of America, all the great advertising they were doing then, and then having to stay edgy, man, when the world was starting to pass by a little bit.
It's true. It's true. I do. So, like, we'll get to the Saturn section here in this week in gaming history. But what was your first Saturn game that you guys ever played?
I'm gonna cheat because I didn't really play a Saturn until much later. Didn't really access it on Whidbey Island back in the day, man. Couldn't get a hold of it. So I'm gonna cheat and say Daytona USA because that was
Okay,
played in the
it's a
arcades
good one.
all the time when like that big shift over to like 3D graphics happened in the arcade games and at home. So I played that game a lot. I remember that very clearly. So when I think of the Saturn, I think of Daytona USA.
It's a good
And
one.
then, of course, replayed it when it came out on the console later on in life. But yeah, no, that just kind of stands out to me beyond, working in the retro game store as long as we did and seeing all the collector's games comes in.
What you Ace?
Panzers, the
Yeah.
Panzers, Lunar, all those games come through. Anything that's an OG jewel case, like excellent. What's the name of the company that did a bunch of the like lenticular looking front ones, like embossing, really cool colors? I'll have to see if I can find it. Anyway, go ahead, Ace. What do you have?
But my first time, like my first Saturn game, was actually it was back when the local arcade opened up back out in San Bernardino, and before they started getting more of the arcade cabinets in, they actually had a setup behind the counter with a PlayStation and a Sega Saturn, and the game that was playing the most on that Saturn was actually Street Fighter Alpha 2.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, and I remember the Saturn wholeheartedly just performing better than the PlayStation when it came to fighting games. So, but of course, it comes down to the controller and all the other things you got to consider. But man, see, we already got lots of stuff to talk about Saturn. So, how about with that said, let's just jump right into this week in gaming history. How about that?
Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna take you back to the past.
Welcome to 30 years ago.
Couple things before we get going. Just want to let you guys know the campaign details for the St. Jude's Play Live is right there in the bottom of the ticker. So if you're looking to donate and help out the kids, just live a better life while they're going through their healing at St. Jude's, feel free to donate there. 100% of your donation will go to St. Jude's, and if you want more details, it's right in the link. So I think right now our campaign goal is about $500 for this community. We're at 125 at the moment, so pretty good. We still got like a couple more weeks, so there's a lot more opportunities to donate as well. Also, second, I don't know if you noticed on the upper left-hand corner of the screen there, we got a little branding thing going over there with Gamer Quotient. So if you guys were always curious what GQ was and GQAzndood, it has been Gamer Quotient. So that is the official branding of the Gaming Academy, and also personally my branding. And I'll talk a little bit more about that once on my own stream. But as of right now, yeah, this is Gamer Quotient Gaming Academy. So welcome. All right, let's kickstart this week here, starting with the console release of the Sega Saturn on May 11th. So that was a Sunday, right? So man, let me get right to it. My first experience with the Saturn, when usually these systems come out in pairs, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Master System, Nintendo, right?
Yep.
And then Sega Saturn and the PlayStation. Now, everybody and their parent and their child wanted the PlayStation all among my social circle as a kid. The Saturn came a little bit after that, and I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. It just felt that way. But I did not get a Saturn on launch because I personally chose the PlayStation, just because the failure, my personal comment there, of the N64 didn't catch me to stay loyal to the Nintendo. When I was younger, I was a true Nintendo loyalist, and I was like, I'm going to wait for the N64 because I want to play Final Fantasy on the N64. I want to play all the Nintendo games on the N64. When it came out, it just didn't do it for me. There was no like CG cutscenes. Like the games were kind of like mid for how long I waited for them. And I stuck with the PlayStation, and I've stuck with PlayStation since then. And the rest is history. Now, my first hands-on with a Sega Saturn was years later when Funko Land in town had opened. I don't know if you guys remember Funko Land by the Sunset Theaters next to the Jamba Juice when it was there before.
Oh, I remember.
and I bought a Sega Saturn for $200 that came in a little cardboard Funko Land box, and I bought one game with it. And this one game was the first Saturn game I ever owned, and right now I think is over $300 for this game. And that game is Guardian Heroes. So
Yes.
and yeah, it's just something about that game that was like, I love beat 'em ups. I loved anime as a kid, right? And the fact that it had like fighting game moves in it, had a branching storyline, multiple characters you can pick from. It was just the perfect game for me at that point in time and age. And it made me want to get a Saturn because that was not available on the PlayStation. But later on, I didn't know that they also released a RAM cart, like on the back right there on the Saturn, which added extra RAM to your game, which then made almost arcade versions of your fighting games. So that was one of the things that the Saturn did better than the PlayStation. Most PlayStation ports of arcade games were kind of like tailored to the system itself. So Marvel vs. Capcom, for example, they had their own version of it. It wasn't like anything close to the arcade, but the Saturn one was actually the arcade one that you got. Just due to the 4 megabytes of RAM that they added to that, they were able to do that. The PlayStation, you were not able to do that. So that is my first experience with the Saturn. Ownership wise, how about you guys as far as ownership wise, or have you ever considered getting a Saturn?
Considered at some point, but never really owned a Saturn. Oh, that right there was the one Sega console that I skipped.
Okay. Yeah. Any particular reason? Like you're just like all about Team PlayStation?
Yeah. I mean, it was the accessibility, honestly. Like they're just compared to the PlayStation, especially when I finally got around to getting my hands on my own.
Yeah.
Compared to the PlayStation, the Saturn was pretty rare. And even then it was like when I wanted to get a Saturn, I wanted to get it for the fighting games, and I also wanted to get it for Guardian Heroes, and I couldn't find any of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unfortunately, like it was pretty rare to see a Saturn around the neighborhood, pun intended. And like it was just like the PlayStation was just so powerful when it came to not really the console, but like it's like marketing and like how everybody just had like they were renting out PlayStation's consoles, they had PlayStation games, and usually the Saturn section in the video store was small, right? So nobody really cared about it. And it's unfortunate because they really had some bangers like Dynamite Deca, aka Die Hard Arcade, was another great game that was limited to the Saturn, and that PlayStation didn't have. And as far as that, there's been some like which caused actually super expensive Saturn games.
Yeah, I will admit wanting to collect for it when we started working together at the retro store.
Mhm.
Mostly because, as I mentioned before, the cover art for it. Anytime you saw those like come in their jewel cases, I loved the look of them. When I was younger, definitely didn't have a chance to get one of these. They were $399 at launch. And just a quick Google shows me that the equivalent for that is over $800 today for this console when it came out. So when this came out, I remember about that time we were moving cross country from Chicago to Whitby, and we couldn't really afford to get anything like this, much less get over to town, take the ferry to get something like this. And about a year later, when usually you think about maybe asking for it on your Christmas list, that next year was the N64. So I never really had a chance to jump in with anything like this. The company I was trying to think of earlier was Working Designs. Design covers,
like hologram covers and stuff.
I love those colors, and they have so many cool things inside too. Like they were the ones giving away the hats and the extra like merch stuff. Like they always had those packed in those jewel cases. So like I always had like this love for the idea of the Saturn, just never got around to it, man. Like we were talking about at the top of this, it was about those arcade games. It was a chance to bring the arcade home for me. The arcade games I remember playing, when I was younger after Little League. So yeah, always kind of liked the idea behind it, man, but it wasn't a thing for me to even contemplate when it released.
So if this is Alundra, but this is a Working Designs game, and fortunately I got this in mint condition, but this is what he's talking about.
Yep.
And this is like in great condition. Look at this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the PS1 one. Do you have any Saturn games or Sega CD?
No, I
Yeah.
traded my Saturn in like an idiot. All right, I only had 2 games: Dynamite Deca and Die Hard Arcade, or and Guardian Heroes.
The good ones.
Yeah, the good ones. I really wanted to get a copy of Dragon Force, arguably one of the last games to come out on the Saturn.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was already too late. It was like reaching $120, and it was only going up from there. So, unfortunate. But hopefully, like down the road, when Sega gets a little bit more confident in their own like marketing and market share, they release a Sega Saturn Mini. That would be super cool. Or
I mean, maybe. I think we talked about it. I don't know if we talked about the minis specifically, but there's been a bunch of information about it lately about how they've just fallen off a cliff, and I really, really doubt we'll get one. I would love one, yeah. If I had the money, I would have picked up more. Like, I really liked the idea behind some of the they did the Atari one, they did the ColecoVision one. Like those are really cool to get like a mini thing that can plug into HDMI, be able to play those. I would love a Saturn one, but my guess with that it's going to be like heavily like leaning on certain titles. We wouldn't be able to get licenses for them. Like I love the ad campaign out of Japan for this one, which is kind of a flip, because you got Segata Sanshiro for the Saturn in Japan. What a great character too! Like
I
just
would,
thinking
I
about
would just love if they kind of just like just went strong with it, right? Like give him a comeback. I think his son took over, isn't that lore? Like his son took over, right? And then I wouldn't mind to have just Sega games on the Saturn, like Virtual On is a Sega game, right? So just
you can just play those in the Yakuza games, my friend.
I know that.
You walk to the Sega arcade there, and you can just play Super Hang On if you want.
Yeah, it's just a novelty of like having a mini Sega Saturn because they did a PlayStation Mini, right?
Yeah, which did not go over well.
Yeah, it's man. I swear it was sold out before I knew it, and then all of a sudden they were just being scalped. It was kind of annoying. I just wanted it as a collector's item to just kind of put on my shelf to have a really cool model. So, but yes, Sega Saturn on what do you call this, on May 11. So here's some other stuff. If you guys don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and read off some of the other stuff that came out.
I'll go for it.
So the other games that were released that day with Sega Saturn was the Clockwork Knight game. And I was gonna say series, that's where it started, and also Panzer Dragoon, as you saw earlier, the rail shooter, super popular rail shooter for the Saturn. Other games that came out that weren't on the Saturn, the Resident Evil clone, I think it was a clone, Cold Winter on the PS2 in 2005. The ever popular Maple Story, if you played that on the PC in 2005, came out that day. The Art of Fighting Anthology on the PS2 in 2006 in Japan. Skate 3 also came out on the PS3 and 360 in 2010. Hopefully we'll get that new Skate game pretty soon. And also in the year 2000, Sierra and Valve announced that the Half-Life mod program, the companies would pick the best of the mods, fund them to be polished to commercial quality, then publish them for the mod makers to get fame and fortune. Let me guess, Counter-Strike?
Well, just mods in general. That was the start of their whole plan to bring in people, release the mods, and have something come out of it. So not just Counter-Strike.
Okay, but it just seems like Counter-Strike won because they made a game out of it.
And a lot of stuff came out of it, right? Okay. But that was just a really cool, this day in gaming history kind of thing they threw it back to.
Man, okay, so seeing Segata Sanshiro, right? I hope down the road I know it's gonna be hard to whoever owns the license of Segata. Wouldn't it be cool? And hear me out, guys. Wouldn't it be cool if he was just a guest character in all their Sega games? Like he was a driver in Daytona. He was one of the players in Fighters Mega Mix, right? He was a character in Knights. That'd be so cool to just be in everything.
Well, I mean, seeing him show up in Project Cross Zone 2 was a treat.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, also Yakuza, he could totally show up in Yakuza.
Oh,
Andre, I was just about to say that I could swear there's probably a character somewhere in this series that's a nod to it, but I'm not 100%. I'd be very surprised with Sega's, love of their old stuff, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Isn't he a character in one of the racing games for Sonic? I swear he is. Chat, can somebody look that up? I swear they like went all in and they just made him a character, a racing game character in one of the Sonic racing games. Because I was like, why is this guy? I know who he was, but I don't know if the rest of the internet who knew who he was.
Let me take a look real quick.
But yeah, I think they should just go all in on Segata because we've accepted like Japanese culture and they're like, and anime and all that so much more now than we did in the 90s. Like, I feel like he would fit right in.
He showed up in 4 games.
Yeah.
So his other appearances are 4 games, specifically outside of like showing up with stuff like throwbacks and then his son becoming the face of Go Sega. So he showed up in Rent-A-Hero #1, which was a game released only in Japan in 2000. And then he was in Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought.
He was also in Project Zone 2 as a playable character.
Yep.
And then there was one in 1998 that was a Sega Saturn only game, which Segata Sanshiro Shinken Yugi.
But yeah, that wasn't crazy. He was in a racing game. That's awesome. We definitely need him in like Fighters Mega Mix though, or something like that. Fighting Vipers, he'd be awesome in,
Yes.
So just a Sega fighting game, 100%. Oh man, he'd be so sick in Virtua Fighter like 6. Like that'd be so sick, and he'd be like a boss.
I'd love it if one of his final moves was him just pounding the controller, but it's like over the body of the other person.
He's literally go ahead.
And hold on, let's just also take into account the simple fact that his actor Hiroshi Fujioka was the original Kamen Rider.
Of course, it's in his blood.
Oh yeah,
he has an aura for sure.
Man.
So let's just say
outrunning this ice like racer in his bare foot.
What if Segata Sanshiro showed up in a fighting game and they actually like tied in some of his Kamen Rider moves too?
Bro, I 100%. I feel like he should be a secret character. Kind of like, you get 3 perfects and no losses. Then Segata Sanshiro ruins that for you,
Let him be a secret character in Virtua Fighter 6.
Oh, 100%. I'm telling you, Sega, just just own up to it. He'd be God mode. He's pretty much in King of Fighters, But let's make his own character. So no, that's awesome. I hope he comes back. Honestly. Oh, look at this man. All right, well, we'll move on to the next day here before we go crazy. All right, so on May 12, we got ourselves the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1989. Quite a contrast to the American box art, don't you think? So I don't know if you guys remember the Ultra Games box art, but it's not as edgy as this one is. But yeah, I've actually seen this art on like a Burger King napkin, I think, when I was a kid.
Yeah, that reminds me more of like the comic almost. The original designs. I don't know if you ever saw the original designs for the TMNT, but it is very different. I got a buddy who's like really into like recollecting some of his childhood toys right now, and he's been recollecting a lot of like the OG turtle stuff from like the original run. And they actually did a release where they made them look like the original sketch of the TMNT in their original version too. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So this is the US version of TMNT.
So edgy. Look at all the energy, that aura.
Actually, this is a modified one because the original cover all had them wear the same color in their eyes.
Yep.
Their headband. Let's see.
The original cover. The original cover had them all in the red, I believe.
Yeah,
so
like
Yep. Just like the comics.
Yeah, this is the Eastman and Laird style, pretty much, which is super cool. And then they eventually got their own identities soon after that. Arguably one of the hardest games on a Nintendo. If you guys have never played it, level 1-3, the dam swimming level.
Oh,
that is like
trauma.
The Dark Souls of Nintendo games.
Yeah, go ahead and pull it up. There you go.
Straight up trauma. I think the only thing that gave me a larger headache than that level was
the beeping. Because remember when you had low health, it would beep right?
Yeah.
And you always had low health in this level. So yeah, it wasn't great. Swimming controls were terrible. It was definitely like an iconic stage and nightmare fuel for a lot of kids.
I was gonna say it's a good trauma bonding for a lot of like young gamers. It's like this was a rite of passage back in the day that you ran into this level. Like this in the Battletoads Turbo Tunnel. Like
Yeah.
that and anything that had like the Ultra logo on it was just like my childhood.
Yeah, and their box art was, man, always class A. It was always great. Matter of fact, I think, like I said, down the road when we do another check this out, I'd love to do box covers and like the history of specific box covers.
Yeah, that or we were kind of talking about during your Mass Effect playthrough, doing a check this out where we talk about like a old dev team kind of thing, like we were talking
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
Ultra or Border Bund or something like that. It'd be really cool just to kind of cover their history instead of some of our other stuff would be fun. It's kind
Yep.
of nostalgia.
All right, some other games to come out on May 12th. Gran Turismo on the PlayStation 1 in 1998. Left 4 Dead Game of the Year edition and on the 360 in 2009. Ye Old Classic Doom, but the modern version on PC in 2016, which, by the way, Dark Ages just came out not that long ago. So awesome. Congrats to them. Hunt Down on everything pretty much in 2020. I actually love that game. It's like a mix of Blade Runner and Contra. And the Legend of and Ace, I think you'd love that game. I'd give it a shot. Play the demo if you can. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch in 2023. Also in 1998, Kid Core is established in Tokyo. Initially, it was focused on arcade action games, but shifted to Bishoujo games in 1996. Around until 2011, their work included such bangers such as River City Ransom, Onimusha 3, Pepsi Man, and the Ever 17 Out of Infinity. Never heard of that one.
Some bangers.
Yeah.
Pepsi Man.
If they do a Saturn Mini, Pepsi Man's got to be in there. 100%. It's one of the original runner games. This is the area where I always did not like make it. I would always be at like 10 seconds and I got to get through all that with like one health bar.
Yeah.
And guess what? You die, you do it all over again. That's the part that sucks. Yeah. Anyway, enough of that trauma. Ugh. 513 Shadow Warrior on the PC came out in 1997.
Who else wants some wang?
Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say, what does that say up there up top? All right. So when they say Asian Duke Nukem, this is the game that they mean. So, made by 3D Realms and had the same like tongue-in-cheek humor and potty humor as Duke Nukem 3D. Just more about demons and samurai warriors versus aliens in outer space. So,
some really over the top stuff, and still to this day, I remember working in the store and putting up some of the marketing for the follow-up Shadow Warriors. Just the worst stuff you put up there too.
Yeah, I actually did a playthrough of the trilogy on my channel late last year, and we went from because I bought the Shadow Warrior trilogy, and so I had played this, and actually this one was the most fun when it came to like I don't know how to explain it. Like it just felt like I was playing Duke Nukem, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not surprising. It's a build engine game, and
Yeah.
it's like even like looking at this gameplay, like the bar at the bottom with your weapons and everything is like straight Duke 3D because this came out right after it, didn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, this was
it's
97.
basically a mod of Duke 3D, pretty much. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. The re-release, the tagline was "Get some wang," and I
Yeah.
remember having to put that up in the store.
and that's what I had played. I played the remake and the second one and the third one, which, by the way, educated me in how to make a game with the same franchise but 3 different games. So that's a very interesting topic there. But yeah, this was one of the beginnings of first person shooters of making it more mainstream, making more character, because these things were like dime a dozen back in it. You put like a different skin on there and monsters, and you shotgun, machine gun, Uzi, bazooka. Like every game was very similar, but their own twist on it, right? Very close.
And for anyone who has never played this game and when asking about like tongue-in-cheek humor from that era, just look up like quotes from this game and you'll understand exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like there's some special stuff. So
Yeah.
that stands out.
Special. Yeah, we'll go with
Indeed.
that.
Very, very much so. Okay, some other games that came out on the 13th of May. Breakout, the classic game from the Atari, but the arcade version came out in 1976. Have you guys ever played Breakout or Muck Breakout? Or there's a bunch of versions of it.
Yeah, definitely played Breakout. I played the one on Atari back in the day.
Yeah.
My
I played the one on
the
the Apple IIe.
Hell
So-
yeah!
Like I could think of at least like 3 different versions of Breakout that I played, but the
Yeah.
one that like stuck with me the most was Arkanoid.
Yeah, that was the other branding of it, Arkanoid. That one gave it more personality because Breakout literally was just a paddle and like yellow colored bricks, right?
Yep.
Arkanoid made it like a space kind of like
And
your ship defeating the alien bricks,
Mhm.
something like that. So it was really interesting.
And also adding like the bonuses for the different color panels.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, they definitely just made it better, right? So that's super cool.
Yeah.
Other games that came out that day: Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars in 1996 for the Super Nintendo, Crazy Taxi 2 on the Dreamcast in 2001 in Japan, The Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Ages and Seasons in the Game Boy Color in 2001, Metro: The Last Light on the PC in 2013, Rage 2 on the PC in 2019, and Evil Dead the game came out on everything in 2022. Homeworld 3 came out on PC in 2024, and Doom: The Dark Ages came out yesterday or today, technically, on the PS5 and Xbox Series X. So I knew that was pretty close by. Also, in 1999, the Learning Company, including Borderbund, merges with and becomes a division of Mattel. Boo! A whole new era of educational
End of an era.
We still love the classics. Yeah.
I
It's
remember playing
interesting
a lot
because
of like the Learning Company games when I was younger too, like Math Blaster and stuff.
number munchers.
Yeah, Number Munchers. Oh my god.
So
Yeah,
really
there was a
cool.
lot of. I remember there was a little, that kind of split once they merged. Just like what was before and what came after, very very different.
Yeah, because I think one of those games that changed up was Carmen San Diego.
Heavily, yeah.
And where in time is Mario, or Mario is missing? I think one of those. It just, like, the way the interface and everything just completely changed from what I remember. But Ace, I see a note here for Mario RPG. I know you've been playing it on your stream. Tell us more about it.
Yeah. Been playing it a little bit on the Switch because I got the remake, but Mario RPG was, part of that toolbox of treasure that I got from my brother's friend on the football team, and like honestly, when we got that toolbox and with those games, I didn't even know Mario RPG had even come out. I'm like, just seeing a turn-based RPG, Final Fantasy style RPG, from what I could tell, with Mario characters it was mind blowing. And then Bowser picked up Mario and threw him. And I was all in.
That's like Colossus and Wolverine, that's the move. The wrecking ball.
That right there. I was invested after that.
I knew that this was going to be a good game because it was a Nintendo game, but the developer was Enix, right? I think it was before it became Square Enix.
Yeah, it was just Squaresoft.
It was a Squaresoft, and I was like, the last time I got a Nintendo game with a Squaresoft logo on it was Chrono Trigger, right? So immediately my bias was like, this is going to be an awesome game, and it looked good. The graphics were really good, and the gameplay was just like a Final Fantasy game. And so
yeah, it's like, I mean, the vibe that I got from it was, okay, it was a Final Fantasy game with the Mario characters, which was already pretty awesome, but how the visuals did that like pseudo 3D reminded me of Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, the claymation almost, right? Mm-hmm. This is the rendered art. That's what it is. Also, the isometric is would probably be borrowed from many millennia to be used in RPGs. Like Breath of Fire has the same angle.
Yep.
Suikoden has the same angle. So a lot of stuff has been borrowed by this formula. Super cool. Fantastic. How about you, Nick? You play Mario RPG?
Nope.
No.
I didn't play a lot of turn-based games back in the day. It wasn't until like later on that got really into them. I also never really had a Super until later in life as well. So it wasn't a game that I really went after. And when I started to like kind of not really collect, but I started to like rebuy some of those games that I didn't get as a kid as I started to get adult money working at a retro store. um, there's plenty of other games I wanted to get, and this was always an expensive one to try to collect later.
This
So it was
indeed
never,
was a very expensive one.
yeah,
I
it was never high on my list.
I think when it came out, what was it? What year was it? 1996.
96.
Yeah, I was like floating around. I wasn't really like in one place. I wasn't really in Chicago. I wasn't really in Blaine yet. Actually, I think I was living temporarily in Vancouver, Canada. And I remember seeing this game for like $120 Canadian. And I was like, what? And this was 1996, right? So I was like, wow, that is an expensive game. What's up with that? But yeah, and we talk about expensive games now. This game was, and I think it's because it also used like a special chip. Like those Super FX chip games were extra expensive at the time upon release, just because it's new tech.
That makes sense.
All right, 514 Mass Effect Legendary Edition that came out in 2021, basically on everything on every platform. Gee, I wonder why I put this one up. Maybe because I'm playing it right now.
Now I'm trying to remember the Legendary Edition. Did that one? That one was the collection of 1, 2, and 3.
Correct. Yep. ValueCity.com, baby. You get a lot of game for this, at least 120 hours.
That's why I bought the collector's edition of it that came with the helmet and all the artworks and everything. It was a really good price to get the full trilogy. Plus, as we were talking about on James's stream, if you didn't catch it, definitely check it out. We were talking about how it has some stuff done to like the original game. There's been a couple quality of life updates as well to kind of make it a little more seamless all the way through. As well as the option to play the legendary like game style, which basically means it condenses. I don't know if do you play the OG Mass Effect?
No, I haven't. I've been thinking about trying to get into it.
Well, what I will say as a giant fan of it, it is really tough watching James play it because it's a little bit rougher than you kind of remember. It's been a little bit since my playthrough, just because the other two games do things a little bit better, and in some cases a lot bit better. So it's fun to like rewatch it. But the cool thing about that legendary one is in the original game when it came out, you basically have to do a new game plus. Or you didn't have to, but you kind of wanted to because you'd load your Shepard back and make some different choices. But you also did that because the gear would also scale with it. So basically, like every gun that releases is like, oh, you get the Hurricane, then you get the Hurricane 2, then the Hurricane 3. Like this steady bump up of like damage, right? When you get through the game the first time, it's at 5 or 6. You have to replay it to get to 10 plus. On some of those weapons. So the legendary version, what James is doing is it condenses it. So in one gameplay way through, you're getting those upgrades a lot quicker. It just makes it smoother, makes it scale a little bit different. It's a lot more of a throughput where like, hey, enjoy your story, get to the next part of it in the next game.
It does ask you that in the beginning in options. I noticed, like, you want to play classic mode or legendary mode? And it has nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with difficulty. It has to do with the way they structured it, like Nixon.
I see.
So if you're like OG classic, you're like, I just want to play it just like the way I did back then, you can click classic mode.
Nice.
But
and as a fan, I'm telling you, don't click classic mode. You get pretty much the same story, which is what you're there for in the legendary mode, and you want to get into the other games. Yeah. Don't handicap yourself and spend 100 hours trying to do a second playthrough too.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. Like if you play Dragon Age, this is the space opera of Dragon Age. You know, so, I like it so far. I'm digging all the characters.
And Ace, you'll have to be there when we have a little breakdown about all the decisions he made and didn't make, because he's missed some things already. It's been fun.
Well, I told that reporter bitch to get out of my face. That's what I said. She was like, Shepard, do you have a minute for a story? I was like, nah, bitch, get out of here.
Hey, Fluffy.
And then immediately she ran a hit piece on you.
Yeah.
Hey,
hit piece for a hit piece.
But that's the whole point. I want to, live with my decisions with no spoilers.
It's like, do you have time for a story? And then Ludacris hollers from off in the background, "Get back!"
Nah, I literally said like, "Nah, I'm good," and she was like, "Ah, whatever," and I was like, "All right, this is gonna go."
And then she pulls a Kotaku.
That's why I can't wait for him to get into the second game when she start having actions by Paragon and Renegade as well. So it's more than just the decisions.
It's great so far, and the way I'm responding to the game is like my instinctual like response to it. I'm not trying to like, oh man, I know it's gonna be good if I answer this way. I'm like, nah, I would answer it like this. So I know it's a little rough for those that played it before because they're like, oh, you're not gonna get like 100% relationship with this person, but that's the point why I'm playing it. I want to be more natural.
Exactly. Go.
And my
No,
approach
just
wasn't
go in
that. As
blind.
someone who did tell him, like, hey man, at least like talk to them, get to know them, and do their personal quests. Like, at least do that. How you talk to them is obviously going to be your thing. Like, don't
Yeah,
let anyone
just
shame
talk
you,
to them at least. Yeah,
but do not skip that kind of content because it plays out in the next couple of games. Especially because, and I haven't spoiled it for him, but there is a chance that some of those characters die in the first game and don't show up for the other two, and that sucks because they have parts to play in the other two games.
yep. I'm okay to live with those consequences. So
Yeah, he does a space Tate.
yeah. Yeah, my guy accident looks like Andrew Tate. Can someone give me a clip of like a thumbnail of one of that? Just put it on the screen there here. But let me do you have something up or read off?
Not yet. I was gonna see if I could find
Yeah,
your.
pull it up. Pull it up. I'll read off the other games that came out on the 14th, and the Animaniacs on the Genesis in 1994, Guilty Gear on the PlayStation in 1998,
The classic.
Cowboy Bebop on the PlayStation in 1998 in Japan, Star Wars Jedi Starfighter on the Xbox in 2002, Dragon Ball Z: The Legacy of Goku in the GBA, arguably one of the best Dragon Ball games that was made in 2002 for the Game Boy. Enter the Matrix on everything in 2003, Killing Floor on the PC in 2009, Call of Juarez Gunslinger on the PS3 in 2013, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night on the Xbox in 2019 in Japan, and of course Mass Effect Legendary Edition in 2021.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, let me go. Look at that.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Top
He
G.
went through the entire like character creator, and then like an hour into the game, all of a sudden I forget who it was in chat, but someone's just like, it looks like Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Space
No,
Tate.
oh no, he does. Space.
Yeah. So the next like 3 hours was talking about being the toppest G.
Top G does take no bullshit. That's why he's renegade option all the time.
That is awful.
I actually ran out of the room just now just to grab it because I forgot it was on the list, but I have my copy, the PlayStation copy of Cowboy Bebop,
Nice.
the import.
Is
Love
that
cover art.
is that a space shooter? I haven't played that one.
Yeah, it basically is. I'm not going to pull the gameplay for it because I just did in the background, and it is rough. I forgot how rough this game
It is rough.
Very rough. It's kind of so this is one of my favorite anime series, but another one of my favorites is Ghost in the Shell, and there was a PlayStation Ghost in the Shell that was very similar to this, and this was a Bandai joint.
Yeah,
Like
no,
they feel very familiar. Like they're very
Shell
similar.
one was super good. You played it, but it's super good.
Yeah, but this was definitely like one of the few. So like I had to get rid of my collection, running out of space, needing money, that kind of thing. But this was one of the ones I held on to just because I love this cover art for it, and it's still so clean.
Fortunately, I don't think I have a copy of Ghost in the Shell. I do remember playing it a lot at my cousin's house. So. But yes, Space Tate. And if you guys want to watch more of that Thursdays and the weekends, we play Space Tate Adventures.
And hey, maybe if he gets to a different money amount, maybe I'll sit in the background with my helmet on while he's trying to play and judge him. We can do a live stream for that. That sounds like fun.
There you go. There you go.
From the creators of The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
Oh Lord.
No. Hey, Chop, how's it going, bud?
Can you imagine a new Pluto Nash with like Idris Elba?
That would actually be kind of cool.
I know.
I'm not going to say no to that.
Yep. All right, let's go to the next day here. All right, 5/15. Vagrant Story came out on the PlayStation in 2000. I think we covered this game before, but we covered the Japan release. I really wanted to go back to it just because like this is a game that needs arguably a remake. One of them, this was sold into the market as a Shakespearean RPG They even had like the writing was also very like super English, right? Like doth thou protest, right? Like, and I remember that, and it was like super good, and the character designs are super cool. And it's the first protagonist that's a man that's called Ashley that I've ever played. So, or they
I
call
just
it
remember the cool haircut on the front of this.
higher the hair, closer to God. That's what they call it. What it is, like Cloud Strife, right? So. But Ace, I know you've played this before. I don't know if you played this on stream. I've played it. It's been a while since I played it, so you're probably the most recent player of said game. Can you tell the audience what kind of game this is and what your experience is with it?
Well, I mean, to describe it as, I think to describe it as a JRPG or describe it even as a SquareSoft RPG would vastly just undersell, exactly what kind of game it is and how unique the experience of playing through it is. Because it's, it was much more, it was much more action oriented and much more tactical in that, in combat, not only did you have like your sphere that came up, showing you what range you could tag enemies in.
It almost looks like it has
But
a VAT system looking at this.
Yeah.
It's pretty much it's pretty much the VAT system.
Before the VAT system, there was the Vagrant system.
Yep, VATS before Fallout was a Vagrant story.
Yeah, and you could like target their like specific body.
And then there was the weapon crafting that was just so in depth, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember being bad at it. Like I didn't understand it because this was before guide, right? You had to buy the strategy guide to like learn it. But trying to like learn it from the top of like your head was like pretty rough, from what I remember.
Nah, getting the timing down, on your attacks was rough. Largely just trying to learn it and all.
Yeah.
But what was also really interesting was how, like, as you went through and took out various types of enemies, you actually strengthened your weapons against that enemy type.
Yeah, it's like you learn to fight a certain weapon against them. And we talked about, you just beat Clair Obscure, right? Expedition 33, and we're talking about like active use of games, turn-based active controls. Like this is probably one of the earlier versions. We just don't think about it.
Yeah.
Now, was that sword called Brohood? I'm sure it was called Brohood. But yeah,
there's some good ones in here. He equipped something called Mojito.
I do remember like this was, it gave me like Chaos Legion vibes. I guess I would say Chaos Legion gave me Vagrant Story vibes because like your guy that you were chasing after, you like hated that guy, and the guy just made your life miserable, right? So like the same thing in Chaos Legion, the guy you're chasing is making your life miserable. Can't wait to fight you till the end, and it's kind of like the same with this one. So. Arguably, this could be also labeled as a Metroidvania, right? Because it was
because there is a whole lot of exploration and backtracking, especially like as you. And that's another unique thing about Vagrant Story. It's not necessarily that you are learning abilities as you level up. You are unlocking memories.
Oh, super cool.
So pretty much like every move that you learn in the game, every spell that you wind up getting sigils for in the game, you come to find out that this is actually literally just, building up his old skills.
Yeah, it's all coming back to him, kind of like that. Right. Now, see, that's super cool. Even the game mechanic is built into the story. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
All right. Some other games that came out on the 15th. Othello on the DOS in 1982. Road Rash 3 on the Genesis in 1995. That's a classic right there. Strife on the DOS in 1996. Diablo 3 making its debut on the PC and Mac in 2012.
That night, oh my god!
Yeah,
I got a story about that. Get to the end of this.
Max Payne 3 on the PS3 and 360 in 2012. A little game that tided me over during COVID was Horizon Chase Turbo on the Linux, Mac, PC, and PS4 in 2020, and Mullet Mad Jack on the PC in 2024. Now, here's a fun fact before you jump onto your Diablo story. Horizon Chase Turbo is actually a spiritual successor to Chase HQ on like the retro. You guys remember Chase HQ?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's actually based off that, like a successor off that. Not a lot of people knew that, but I looked it up. So. All right, Diablo 3. I can only imagine though what kind of nightmare stories. Because I did get out of working out of World of Warcraft 1's release. I switched a shift with somebody.
Yeah, you did.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to work that. My first day of work at GameStop was the Halo 2 midnight launch. But for me, one of my favorite releases was the Diablo 3 one. And that was mostly because of the story that happened around it. So I did work that night, but the plan was we were going to do a LAN for it because we had a lot of friends in our group that were like really, really into Diablo 2. And I was too growing up. Like, this was one of my favorite games to play on PC. There's something that kind of stuck with me still to this day. So I worked the midnight launch. We went home, and I was living with a dude at the time right down the street, right down Sunset from the GameStop that I worked at. And we set up a computer setup. I want to say it was like 3 tables in our front room and like kitchenette area. Like we had a full-on LAN party of at least 6 people. And if any of you played Diablo 3 at launch, you know about the error code that popped up that night and the servers were down. So I get off work for the midnight launch, we go home, and we've bought like boxes of corn dogs, energy drinks, a little bit of beer too, some snacks. Like, we were ready to go home and just play this thing all night. And then the error code hits, and we didn't get to play until like halfway through the next day. And a bunch of my friends went home. They went home to crash. I kept trying to log in most of the night. I took like a 2-hour nap or something. Took the next like couple days off to play this, right? But I just remember very clearly like waking up on my couch, not being able to log in still, and just being pissed that we had planned this and all this stuff had happened. And so much so that I stress ate the entire box of corn dogs. And it's still a story to this day in my group of friends. I still get shit for it because I didn't wait for them like to eat those corn dogs. So yeah, that came back to bite me, man. But yeah, the Diablo 3 midnight launch is something that has stuck with me, and it's not just because the error code, but what me and my friends did around it. I really wish I still had one of my old phones that I took pictures of. It was one of the last big LAN parties we threw together with friends. Like, since then, we've all gotten older, we can't really do it. We'll get together to do like 3 or 4 of us on a random night kind of thing once every couple of years. But man, yeah, no, crushed it. Crushed the corn dog box, Andre.
The question is, was the error code like swamp servers, or there was just busted?
That was the error code where the servers wouldn't allow you to connect. I forget the error code. Let me type it in really quick.
Bro, how did they not have that fixed on launch? That's crazy. That's insane.
Error 37, because of high login traffic.
Okay, so they had to implement
This is
it wasn't. It was straight up the servers were not prepared for it, and they didn't have a queue system really right away. They had to implement a queue system to address it like partway through that launch night. Like, it was rough, like really, really rough.
This sounds like it was definitely before, online stress testing was a regular thing.
Well, and you would think like a company like Blizzard that runs, World of Warcraft would have the server load capacities figured out or all that stuff. That's the reason so many people were upset, is that they've been kind of this like big MMO factory known for their online like servers and stuff. Which I'm not saying WoW was perfect. Any of us who played it knows, like, back then there was a lot more issues. But no, the Error 37 cropped like that night. It's the most infamous one. It was like a high logins. People still couldn't get in. Like, it was really hard to clock it, and there wasn't really a right off the bat a queue system to get that like sorted. Like, it was rough. And again, indelible mark on the rest of my life. I'm going to remember that night.
Hello, corn dog's my old friend. There you go. All right. Let's see here. All right, 16. But yeah, Ace, you should check this out. It's an arcade racer, arcade-ish game. So
Oh, Chase Horizon.
yeah, Horizon Chase Zero, I think. Horizon Chase Turbo. Sorry.
Look, it looks awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like Outrun, right? But it's actually it's based off the Chase series. That's why it's Horizon Chase.
It's pretty much Outrun meets Need for Speed.
Yeah, but definitely more like Cruising USA. Right. It's not like serious like Need for Speed. All right. Speaking of online games and nightmares, Final Fantasy XI came out on the PC in 2002, also on the PS2. And one of the main reasons to buy a broadband adapter and hard drive, or HDD, for your PS2. It was like one of the few things that used it. I got to hear everyone's Final Fantasy XI story. Did you guys play this? Did you pass on it? Were you hating on it? Did you love it?
Passed on it because wasn't too big into MMOs.
Yeah, well, that's a simple answer. It's about it right there.
I did not have it because I didn't have a PS2 or PS2 with a broadband connection. And on PC, I definitely was not playing like this MMO. I was playing like Star Wars Galaxies and stuff leading up to this. This was 2002, so that predated a little bit, but I was playing games more like that than Final Fantasy.
Okay. I did play World of Warcraft before I played Final Fantasy 11, or was it after? It was after, right? World of Warcraft.
Which one?
World of Warcraft
is 2004, so this predated it by 2 years.
Okay, so my
we're talking like EverQuest and stuff in this era.
My experience with Final Fantasy 11 was not on the PS2 because I did not want to buy the extra gear. I did have a pretty hefty laptop at the time, at a Sony like Bravia or something like that, and it ran it okay. It wasn't like the best. It didn't have a graphics card in it or anything. Settings. It was cool and exciting to have an online big ass world of Final Fantasy in Vanna DL, what they call it. I played a Hume. They called them Humes in Final Fantasy 11, which is super crazy. But the job system was like just like Final Fantasy 5. You're like Vader, white. The thing that stood out the most in this game, and I think what 14 had fixed, was you could not solo this game. Not like you can solo it up to like level 10 or 12, I think. But then once you get to level 10, you get your advanced job. And after that, the game relies on you to get a party, just like in the OG Final Fantasy, right? You have to play as a party, not by yourself. And that kind of ruined a lot of people's experiences social. They just wanted to play a game. Forced to team up and queue up with these parties, right? And the other part of this too was if you didn't party up with somebody, you would solo a monster, until like while you're red lighting your health. And when you died, you lost XP and you would level down. So yeah, not a very good experience. It was very hardcore for what it was, and it was definitely not your normal Final Fantasy. And I think like a lot of the stuff they put in 14 has really fixed a lot of the people that complained about 11. So they did a good job with 14, even though they had to relaunch it again, right? Because they were still kind of like building up on it. But now everybody loves 14. But yeah, that was like I call this like the Final Fantasy 14 like alpha, pretty much. It's basically what created the 14 series to be successful. But it's definitely not a game for everybody. I know a lot of people that gave their heart and soul to this game until World of Warcraft came out, because there's nothing really anything like it, right? They like Final Fantasy, and this is the newest Final Fantasy in the numerated series, so they thought it was just something they had to play. And then, but when you had more options, like we say on this podcast, competition breeds innovation, right? They usually transition to other games that are more to their speed and more to their liking. Like Lineage was another popular one that came out on this one. I know that World of Warcraft, a lot of people migrated over to World of Warcraft in comparison to this one. So. Yeah.
I didn't even get into MMOs until 2009 with Dungeon Fighter.
Yeah, Yeah, and that's also a different kind of MMO. It's a beat 'em up MMO. You know, so it's this is like I would say this is more turn based, right? Or active turn.
I remember, especially because I got really, really into MMOs like after this, like a couple years after this was a thing. I remember hearing about this game and its notorious bosses. Like, there's a couple bosses in this that are still considered, at least for their time, considered some of the hardest boss fights ever in video games. I think it was Absolute Virtue was the name of one. Like, it couldn't be beat without exploits until years later when they had to completely tweak things. And there was another boss too that I think took like 20 hours to defeat or something like that. I remember like there was stories about that being out there about notoriously long and difficult boss fights in this game. So that's pretty crazy. That's just like a cool call out to think like in this era, you know, when we didn't have the same information we do now to approach these things or the same communities. That's kind of the really interesting thing about, you know, me when I went back to play World of Warcraft Classic when it relaunched in 2019. We knew those fights from when we played it back in the day, but the availability of information nowadays, how much easier it made everything approachable in these games because of that fact. So just thinking back to then and people not having that and having to spend 20 hours in an effectively unbeatable boss, like that is insane. Yeah, just trying to figure it out. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
definitely check it out if you can. Like, I think there's a whole story behind it.
Maximilian Dude was a Final Fantasy 11 player, and he was talking about how there would be like that super rare mob drop that would appear in a certain time of day, right? So all you would see are people standing around in a certain area, like, and we're talking hundreds because it would only one would spawn, and that thing that would come out that would spawn is like it would drop an item that would let you forge your like ancestral weapon. Like, so if you were like a dragoon, it would get your dragoon spear or something like that. And so it was just like a nightmare because, like, you know, there wasn't a lot of this back then. So they were just kind of, you know, going with what they thought was good. Right. So it sounds exciting, but when you kind of scale it to like 100 people on a screen at the same time with one opportunity, it kind of sucks. Right. So, but yes, the knowing what to do next was a hard one because I only remember my only access to data was game facts at this time. There was no YouTube, there was no anything like that aside from the official strategy guide. Game facts was the only place to read up on these things. So, all right, other games to come out on the 16th. One of my favorites, SimCity 3000 Unlimited on the PC in the year 2000, which is hilarious. Gigawing 2 on the Dreamcast. That's, I believe, a shoot 'em up. Project Justice on the Dreamcast as well. Injustice 2 on the Xbox and PS4 in 2017. And the Castlevania Anniversary Collection came out basically and everything in 2019. I thought that came out earlier, but I guess not. But Project Justice, Ace, this is arguably the sequel to Rival Schools?
Yep.
Okay.
And for folks that haven't played it yet, at the very least, the US version is going to be coming out with the Capcom Fighting Collection coming up. Yeah.
Super
but for me, the first time I actually played Project Justice was actually importing the Japanese version for my Dreamcast. So, you know, of course, I had to look up the Japanese translations to, you know, get the hang of the story that was being told in the game. But I also used those translations for actually playing through the character creator and the, you know, custom character story that was in the Japanese version of Project Justice.
Yo, team up. That's cool.
Basically Marvel 3 at this point. So do you know why it's called Project Justice versus like Rival Schools 2?
Because technically Rival Schools 2 had already been released on the PlayStation. Like the main and the Evolution disc were technically Rival Schools 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. And so this is different from Rival Schools 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the third game.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Yeah, I wasn't a big Rival Schools guy. I think at this point I was kind of done with. What year is this? 2002. I think
2001 for Project
2001.
Justice.
I took a break on like console games. I think it's because like I really wanted to. I scaled back a little bit. I started like going to school and kind of like I think I moved a lot. So the only game I was really playing was the Final Fantasy, like on my PC or whatever PC games.
Mhm.
And I really took a break from console and game buying.
Hey, Jagos.
Roberto beats all. Yeah, you feel that, Andre? Yeah, sometimes you just gotta take breaks, man. Absolutely, it makes you love your passion a little bit better when you're in the right headspace for it. You know,
Right.
all right, move on to the next one. Yeah, looking forward to playing this, and it's got and it has online, right, on the fighting game collection, so that's exciting. All right, our last day for this week in gaming history. Well, 517 Phalanx was released on the Sharp X6800. Props to anybody on stream that knows what console that is, or machine, platform, whatever you want to call it, in 1991 in Japan. Also, much cooler artwork than the old man with the banjo on the US. It's like not even the same thing. So let's pull up some gameplay here. It is a side shooter. It is the same Phalanx on the Super Nintendo with the old man and the banjo.
And this is legit, at least according to this from this gameplay, is the Sharp
The
X
purest version of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is probably the most arcade quality side scrolling shooter. Yeah. Do we have a photo of the Sharp X6800? I'm going to look this up. I've never heard of it, and I'm a gaming nerd. We all are here, and if you guys have, even better. But
that's cool though.
Yeah, let me pull this up. Computer Museum. Is it the white one or the black one that you got?
Both, but I'll pull up the white.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a PC right there in 1990. What one? That's a cool looking PC. You know, and the mouse. What is that ring for? It's like a headstand thing, but it's not. Well, that's a Kumajo. That's Dracula's castle.
Yeah, I think that was just so your mouse cord didn't get caught on things.
That's great. Yeah, that's crazy, huh? But yeah, Phalanx, I didn't know it came out on the Sharp, but it did because I only played it on the Super Nintendo. Super fun.
Yeah, shmup. It's not a music-based like alternative to Guitar Hero or anything.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then there's, I mean, this genre was pretty popular back in. Like, you guys remember UN Squadron, right?
Oh yeah.
Or in Japan, Area 88. And if you're in the Euro, it's called Carrier Wing. Yeah, kind of obsessed. So, all right, other games that came out on this day: Nightmare 3D on the DOS in 1994. Please tell me you have the gameplay for this, because believe it or not, I've played this game, Nick.
Which one?
Nightmare 3D. Daytona USA Championship Circuit on the Saturn in 1996. Duke Nukem Manhattan Project on the PC in 2002. Odin Sphere on the PS2 in 2007 in Japan. The Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Sands on the PSP in 2010. That was what the movie was based off. LA Noire, one of the coolest games I think to ever played in console, PS3 and 360 in 2011. The sequel to Homefront The Revolution came out on everything in 2016. And V Rising on the PC in 2022. Yeah, this was like horror Wolfenstein. And this was okay. Here's the story why I had this game. It was either buy this. This game was the same price for the full game, 3 chapters, I think, for the shareware version of Doom. So I was like, I want a full game. I don't want just one episode. So I ended up getting this game instead. But do you see what I'm saying from earlier? Like, games like this were kind of like dime a dozen, because this is legitimately the same concept as Doom.
The same concept, but like the ability of Carmack to make an engine to do what Doom did
Yeah.
is incredible, because yeah, everyone was doing games like this in some effect. You can see like the floor and the ceiling kind of being the same, like single shade. Like that's just all they could really do at the
Yeah.
time. This kind of like scaling as they go by,
Little
walking,
lighting
like
effects.
this is pretty
Yeah.
good for like the DOS version of this game, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I remember a lot of really bad games that
Yeah.
tried to
This was
copy this, and
arguably shovelware at the time. Yeah.
it was the new hotness, man.
It was, and I just funny that you brought that up, because I actually played this game, which is hilarious. Kind of like when we brought up Raptor, and I was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
played that game. Like,
Yeah, there's always a few. Whenever you throw these games on there, which is great, I always kind of go through the list and see if there's some that kind of like stand out. Of just like, man, this was like a vibe or a time, or like I remember this being big. Like we should talk about it.
yeah,
This was one when I looked it up, and I was like, oh yeah, no, we got to bring this up.
yeah. The only other game that I can think of that would rival this, as far as like Duke Nukem, before Duke Nukem actually, it was Heretic, which was the prequel to Hexen.
Yeah,
And a lot of people know Hexen, but they don't know Heretic. But Heretic was like the classic version of Hexen.
Yeah.
So, and I love Heretic. Yet another IP that they need to revive, man.
let me see if I can find. Oh, like a new tab. Oh, that is.
Did you have a PC, Ace, when you were a kid?
I
That is it.
But one of my friends did.
Okay. Is this floppy? Yeah, 5.25.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Nightmare 3D, baby. This was
easy to use. Just type Wiz.
also, who the fuck holds a gun like that? Look at that hand.
Don't ask questions.
Bro, that guy is a rookie.
That thing has a massive amount of kick, so he's got to get both of them behind the slider just to keep it in place.
This brings me back. So, but anyway, speaking of, that is this week of in gaming.
Man, imagine having to hold a gun using a face hugger grip, though.
It was like this. Like,
it wasn't even that. It was just like holding the.
Yeah. It was like taking a photo with that thing. But anyways, we got what all you've been waiting for: more news and rumor stuff with Rumor Mill. Quick bites. All right, take it away, Nick.
Yeah, I'll take it away. We'll do some more news. This last week's always been fun. I love bringing everyone up to speed, and we want to make sure that we have time for the tech tonight. So let me handle this real quick. Skydance Games announced that Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, which was first teased at D23 in 2022, is being delayed until early 2026. The team said they're taking the time for some additional polish. So not too surprising, but at the same time, we're seeing more and more games go into 2026, and the black hole that is GTA 6 is now there too, so we'll see what ends up happening. We're going to talk about that in a second.
I do have a question with this game, because I've seen the super hyper realistic of Marvel 1943. What's the gameplay? Do we know?
No. It was teased in 2022, and I think during that next year they had some gameplay. I forget where it was, at one of the conventions, but we haven't really seen anything since then. Because I feel like when they don't release gameplay, they're gonna have the same effect as what they did with the Avengers, where they think it's a certain game, but then when they played it, they were like, "What is this?" Right? And I don't want it. I want these games to succeed, but that was the number one thing I thought of when I saw this game and the Avengers game. Like, they don't tell you what kind of game it is, and that's concerning. I've got the cinematic here if you want to throw that up in the background while we're working through this. But it's been delayed nonetheless. So this is the story trailer for it as we're talking through other things. Helldivers 2, guys, that's in the news today. Some pretty cool stuff. They just provided players with a new weapon customization feature, which is really cool. This is because the new Illuminate enemy has started to target Super Earth. So, we needed some new tools of democracy to combat them. So we got it. Attachments can be attained through requisitions. Cosmetic customization is now an option via unlocked patterns. and most primary weapons have levels that can be unlocked now. So a little bit of extra gameplay with your weapons as you're getting ready to push back against the new enemy type. Before the Fallout TV show has even aired its second season, they've already confirmed and announced there's going to be a season 3. Season 2 just wrapped production as well, so that's been in the news lately. And we did find out that season 2 will drop on Amazon Prime in December of 2025. So already getting a season 3. I think they're expecting for this one to run for a while. So I guess we'll see what happens. I know you two have played this game that's in the news, but Monster Hunter Wilds, that's been a massive hit, right? That's all people have been talking about lately. You guys still playing that at all?
No,
no,
no, because there's no new content yet.
And from what we hear, they are working on more, but they at least talked about it again being such a great financial hit for them. In their recent financial report, they actually reinforced that notion, with Wilds hitting the 10 million sales milestone in its first month and Resident Evil still going strong. The company just marked its 12th consecutive year of profit growth. So Capcom, after years of kind of being in the doldrums there, have now 12 years in a row made some profit. So Capcom is doing just fine. One interesting note from that report, and why I wanted to call this out and kind of mention this in the news, their sales of units total in this last year, this last fiscal year rather, was 51.87 million copies. So not only is that a 13% growth compared to last year, but apparently 90% of those sales were digital only.
Good. A couple of things to consider with those numbers. We're talking about how the number, people are just leaving the gaming because it's past COVID, video stuff. Great on Capcom for retention. This is all retention. And I would like to add that Capcom released in 2022 this super huge survey about what do you want to see in your Capcom games, and it took me 30 minutes to fill out. And honestly, what they delivered in the past 13 years or whatever, right? Or what is that? 12 years? 12 consecutive year profit
12
growth?
consecutive years of profit growth.
Ever since COVID in 2020, I feel like they released all the games even before that, even before Devil May Cry 5, I filled out this huge survey of what you want to see in Capcom games and what you want to see. And I filled it out honestly, and I saw 80% of those games get released. So if companies want people to retain their games and play their games, do more of those surveys. I feel like, man, that would get Nick back into his groove, and and more people liking the games that they want to play. So
yeah, one thing that, and we've mentioned a couple times, I used to work, and I was contracted through some teams who did user research for video games, and I talk a little bit from time to time about surveys and those kind of gameplays that people get and the feedback that a lot of teams get in those sessions. They are incredibly useful. You may not see that in the end game, what you think they should do or not, but what they hear in those sessions is incredibly important. And like you said, those surveys, they listen to those surveys. Yeah. Again, it may not feel like that to you sometimes, but they do take the massive amount of data they get from that to make their decisions. So yeah, take those surveys when you can. It actually matters. For someone who ran some of those studies as well and ran some of those surveys, it is really cool to see that feedback, especially when you see the devs take it in a session when they're there. That's why we always call out Baldur's Gate 3 for the years they spent in, early access, getting that kind of feedback and building that game. It's the same thing I saw personally with Age of Empires 4, when they were releasing that, being able to be in some of those play tests and be able to talk to people as they're playing it, seeing how they consume the game or play the game, and how they can be improved in the immediate moment is really, really cool. It's a fun project. That's why I love doing that so much. Flip side of the revenue news, WB Games. We know it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows over there. It's no secret. The opposite, right? No, it was a good flip, right? Two sides of the coin, man. It's no secret they haven't had any major game releases recently, and they shut down several studios in February. I mean, Suicide Squad flatlined in the market when it came out. So with that in mind, how much did this Q1 2025 compare to last year? Year over year, WB saw a revenue drop of 48%. So all that stuff, that massive a drop, And like I said, those studios unfortunately closed in February. This is the time of financial reports kind of coming out, so it's been in the news lately. So I don't, mean to talk too much about that, but we can glean some stuff from it. Nintendo actually had some stuff to say during their financial update. They took time during that update to reaffirm their pledge to continue making Switch 1 games. So that's great news for people like me who are looking to get into the Switch 1 finally, as the 2's coming out. Now, the company hasn't said how long they're going to be doing that. They just said that going forward, we will continue to bring out new titles for the over 1 million people worldwide who are playing Nintendo Switch. Ace, you like Stellar Blade. We've been talking about that lately. You buy that super expensive statue we were mentioning in all its glory. And all the cakes. Well, Stellar Blade has had its PC release date announced by a PlayStation oopsie. If you didn't see, a trailer for the port was released earlier than expected, and the showcase of it revealed a bunch of updates and enhancements, as well as the release date, which is now June 11th. So things like unlocked frame rate, higher res textures, ultra wide support, and the like are going to be stuff you're going to be seeing in that game. So don't have to wait long for that PC release. They'd already mentioned it before, but now we got a date. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, still have a lot of people playing that, and for good reason. Fans have some good news. The game's director has announced that the game is getting full mod support, and now the community is able to get their hands on that. The editor the team is releasing is the same official editor they use, called Integration Studio. So the community can now create cinematic campaigns, new game modes. This is a chance to be like super creative with the game, and that's in fans' hands. So we might see some really cool stuff come out, but on the back of, Space Marine 2 doing so well, they've already confirmed Space Marine 3. Now it's in the community's hands. James, I see you shaking your head, man. What you thinking?
I like the idea, but Games Workshop is notorious for slapping your hand for making your own content and claiming it as theirs. So that's why I'm like, I think it's awesome because now like people can like create their own stories with this engine. It's super cool, right? But also at the same time, Games Workshop is like, by the way, that's ours, not yours. And that's a big like disappointment.
Well,
Yeah.
and that was something similar that Blizzard had done with the most recent games that they've been releasing. Learning from what happened from Warcraft 3 with Defense of the Ancients and seeing how that got spun out into other things. Like they started putting that into their EULAs. So I'm not too surprised that companies are doing that. It's just with this game in particular, like you said, they tend to be pretty hand slappy, but also at the same time, they've never been really opening the gates to let people play and mod their games. So
That's
this is
true.
the first time that's kind of happening, and that's really cool. So now they have access to that kind of editor. We'll
Yeah.
see how that relationship works out. Just kind of interesting news to talk about. And I know last week, guys, we talked to death the GTA 6 trailer too, right? We had plenty of things to say about it. Really good conversation. Check out the VOD if you haven't, because it was really great to get these two guys' response on it. But a couple fun tidbits have kind of shaken out in the last week, so it's worth bringing up again really quickly. As of today, the trailer has already passed 106 million views, so weekend. Also, the song that's kind of in it, the Pointer Sisters, the Hot Together song, featured in it, has soared up the charts. Streams for the song have jumped up 182,000% because of that trailer.
That's insane.
Insane. Rockstar also decided to make a new TikTok account because they wanted to see how it would go. They did it as an experiment, and within 24 hours of putting that trailer on there, they got 1 million followers immediately. So this trailer is kind of like the new hotness that everyone couldn't wait for, and it's been true. All of this is parallel to the news that they shared and confirmed that a little something about the content of that trailer. It featured equal parts gameplay and cutscenes. So you can go back, take a look at it, see if you can figure out where those cuts kind of happen. But, being almost equal of both is really good for something that looked great. Ace, I know that you were a little bit hesitant on it because you weren't as much of a fan. Did you end up checking out the trailer?
Yeah, I did sit down and actually, check out the trailer. And honestly, I mean, again, GTA is not necessarily my thing, but the trailer looks cool. It looks cool. A lot of what they showed off as far as like, what's going to be in the game. Like I can definitely see where fans of GTA, when they see this, I think they're gonna be pretty happy with it.
Or even somewhat casual fans of the gaming industry as a whole. Everyone kind of knows about this game, and how it's supposed to be huge. Rockstar's kind of built this following even for people who aren't hardcore fans of their games. Like, they stand out. And, this trailer getting the traction is, I'm not too surprised, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing when we saw Stranger Things start playing that Kate Hill song during the last season. Like, that shot up charts. Like, when it becomes this kind of like cultural thing, like everyone's like, oh man, I remember this thing, let's run with it. 182,000% like stream increase that's insane. That's
the Mad World song on Gears that
yeah,
song much more popular.
I was
gonna say, speaking of trailers, like the trailer for GTA 6 is giving me the same feeling, where people are dissecting it, right? The same feeling as when Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, when they were dissecting that trailer, because at the time they were like, they were watching Snake shoot bottles and seeing all of it come apart, and they were like, damn, for a PS2, this is crazy. So it's kind of funny that we're kind of back to that, even though it's like years.
Yeah. Well, got some more news for you, so let's burn through it. If you didn't hear, just a fun little tidbit, but game director Hideki Kamiya is back in the news. He posted a YouTube video on his channel on May 8th, just answering comments from fans, which is always fun to see when a dev can okay, let's look at these comments, let's respond to some of these. Just a bit of fun news, because he called out a little something in particular. He did say he would want to do a remake of the first Devil May Cry game, and added that he wouldn't want it to be a full remake with like current technology and game design ideas. So maybe that's a future rhetorical for the panel and the community here to think about, like bringing back something like Devil May Cry, but keeping it in its game design era, not updating it. Is there some games that we can bring back that don't need updates or shouldn't, or maybe as a fun experiment, not update it? Anyway, just something really cool, just something to call out. Titan Quest 2 has had its early access release delayed by developers Grimlore Games. The team called out a lot of market competition in their planned release window, and it will now shoot for summer 2026. The team had been running play tests, and they saw a lot of positive feedback. They've been sharing that, but they know, and they shared, that there's a lot of ARPGs on the market, and that is part of the reason they're pushing that back. This is all kind of in the background with GTA 6 and it moving as well. That's something that'll come up in the rumor mill in just a moment. So again, back of your head. In case you missed it, Bam Margera is officially confirmed to be in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. The Hawkman himself went out of his way to make sure that Bam was included in the release. That was really cool to see. Last week, if you missed it, Sony announced that teamLFG has joined the PlayStation Studios family. Originated at Bungie, and the very first project is going to be, stop me if you heard this before, a team-based action game. So we'll see what happens from that.
Team-based action game? What the hell?
Team-based action game. Yep. Apparently, the game is going to draw inspiration from a wide variety of genres, and they called that out ahead of time. And we're talking like they called out specifically fighting games, platformers, MOBAs, life sims, and frog-themed games. So basically, it sounds like the team is going to take inspiration from a little bit of everything, and this is going to be more of like a light-hearted like world. So we'll have to see where this goes. All right, a couple quick rumor mill stuff for people in chat today. As always, take this as a grain of salt. Try as much as possible not to throw up stuff here that are just from people that aren't at least, vetted a little bit by some of the community. But it's always cool to get you thinking a little bit. We're getting closer to Summer Games Fest, so everyone's getting really, really excited for that, right? See what kind of games will be coming out. Sorry, my cat's crying. Hey,
your son needs your attention.
Wow. We'll get him on stream one of these times. Rumors of what's potentially going to be showing off are starting to make their ways around the internet. Last week, courtesy of Nate the Hate, we may know one game project that could be there. When asked on X, Nate the Hate was basically given a list of 3 games like, hey, I was wondering if there's going to be anything big like Project 007, the Tomb Raider reboot, or The Wolf Among Us 2. And he replied with, at least one of those will be at SGF. Which one of them would you prefer? So don't know which one, but from those 3 being announced, it sounds like we're going to get a game that the community's been kind of looking forward to. So any bets, you two?
My guess, the most realistic answer is Wolf Among Us 2, because people have been asking for that. But Tomb Raider reboot is very likely, just because they did the anime in the show, and they're they've already talked about the reboot, but does it need to be rebooted again? Dang, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just with all the remakes and reboots that are already out and on the horizon, it wouldn't shock me if Tomb Raider actually came up in the conversation more than once.
Sure. I mean, the last reboot that they did, I actually really liked that trilogy of games. Rise of Tomb Raider is probably one of my favorites from that entire generation. Great games. And I still enjoyed like Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It definitely felt like it was starting to get a little tired by then, but the graphics were still great. And I still liked the team that worked on it a lot. I got to meet some of them, which is really cool. But talking about earlier how GTA 6 is this literal black hole in the industry with its gravity kind of affecting everything around it. Hideo Kojima himself said that their upcoming game, Death Stranding 2, was affected by GTA 6's release date. That game did just go gold, by the way, so that one is on its way out the door, which is fantastic. Don't get comfy with its new release date, because industry expert and analyst Jason Schreier reported via Bloomberg that there wasn't a guarantee that the May 2026 is a sure thing, and the game could get delayed again. So I bring up that article because he mentioned it, and Jason has his finger on the pulse. He's been doing this thing for a long time, kind of bringing up these kind of thought pieces. Check out that article if you can. Brings up some really cool things about how the industry as a whole is super affected by that game, and everyone is aware of it. There's a lot of games that have been pushed back. As mentioned earlier, there's a couple that are delaying releases, early access stuff, and now they're going to land right next to GTA 6 again. But devs can't be too scared of that, because it may get pushed again and we may have to wait again. So just a little random rumor kind of thing that came out. We'll see where it goes. Last one I have for us tonight, XOX Leak is back, this time talking about some different stuff. They've built a strong track record lately doing a bunch of data mining, specifically with Marvel Rivals. But now data miners that they're working with are now claiming that Arc System Works will reportedly be releasing a brand new game later this year for the Switch 2. Under the code name Watari, it is reported to be made with the Unreal Engine 5.4 and is set for release this November. The subreddit Gaming Leaks and Rumors has been talking about this leak, and there's a discussion whether or not this is a new game at all or just a port. So we'll see what happens, but potentially a new Arc System game for the Switch 2. Not done with Arc System just yet. There was another leak via installbaseforum.com that shows that Arc System Works were originally planning on launching a Switch 2 exclusive game in March 2025. This was kind of the time frame the industry insiders were originally discussing the Switch 2 was going to release in. So that may validate some people's predictions. But nonetheless, from that forum discussion, the game was their Project Life game. So potentially a visual novel style game, so nothing too huge, but that is separate from this other one that's being made. So what I got for this week, guys.
My guess on that Switch 2 game that they're developing, codename Watari. Oh, it's going to be made by Unreal Engine 5.4. Okay, never mind. I was going to say it's probably going to be a complete edition of Guilty Gear Strive.
Think so?
Yeah, and I don't know, because it says made with Unreal Engine 5.4, so I don't think that's... I would have put it past them to make a complete.
Ace, you got any vibe on it?
Well, I mean, let's also consider the fact that Guilty Gear Strive just didn't the anime for that just release not too long ago?
Bro, isn't the story mode the anime? Literally, he plays story mode. You just watch it,
basically. But yeah, I mean, if considering how long they've been having, post-launch support with like DLC characters and such, I also wouldn't be surprised if a complete edition of Guilty Gear Strive hit the Switch 2.
It's about that time, kind of like how they're timing the Switch 2 with the release of the complete edition of Street Fighter 6.
Yep.
Right. That's why I was like, I feel like they would do that for Guilty Gear Strive as well. So. But all right. Well, I want to learn a little bit more about Fatal Fury. So let's go ahead and show us the tech when it loads.
There we go.
Take her away, Captain.
All right. So, as I mentioned the other week, we're going to be coming back with more Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. And this time, we're going to be tackling the second main protagonist of the newest generation of the Fatal Fury series. That being, of course, the son of series antagonist and, well, son of series antagonist and adopted son of series protagonist. That being Rock
Family
Howard.
problems.
And, Rock as a character is just interesting because, again, not just in his backstory, but also through his, through his special moves, you really get that feeling of, he's a blend of both Terry Bogard and Geese Howard. Uh, much like much like Terry, Rock has his, Rock has his standard arsenal of special attacks, which encompass firefighting at long range, anti-airs, distance coverage, physical distance coverage. But then you add in some of the more unique elements that not only come from Geese Howard, but that also are, unique to Rock. Like, for example, Rock has a command grab that is pretty much, Geese Howard's throw. And said command grab can also be, you can also break it. So that way, instead of, having the full animation play out, you can cancel it and follow up for juggles. Now, another thing that's more Geese Howard, but still unique to Rock, is his command dash. And this has, now 4 different variations as opposed to just the 2 that were in Mark of the Wolves. So, you have your you have your aerial chop that's actually, a little bit more of a Geese Howard original. You've got a Terry Bogard style dunk. You've got a new foot sweep. You've got a new foot sweep follow up that's, again, new to this series, but also unique to Rock. And then you have a side switch. Each of the 4 different attack buttons after you do the command for the run is what triggers your follow-ups. And of course, each of his special moves also have rev versions or EX versions. So his EX fireball, his EX projectile has knockdown. For his distance coverage, that one actually comes out a lot faster. The run even has enhanced versions of each of the follow-ups, most of which have different properties depending on where they hit. Like, for example, the dunk, just like with Terry, can actually, cause a ground bounce against aerial opponents. So let's say, for example, you just do a simple link like this. Sorry, let's try that again. And you see you've got the ground bounce there. And of course, his anti-air, which is Terry's rising tackle, multi-hitting, invincibility on startup, and of course, both the enhanced version and the heavy attack version can be canceled to keep you on the ground. But Rock also has one more special move that was added to his arsenal. Another holdover from Geese Howard. An aerial projectile, which can actually, not only cover air-to-air approaches, but can also be done to, protect you against anyone trying to run in from long range after, say, after using a move that causes knockback, or say, using his command grab to, send someone to the other side of the screen from you. So whereas Terry could be described as, an agile refrigerator, or, for a more thematic comparison, Terry is like an American muscle car, you know, Dodge Challenger, Mustang, Camaro. Rock would play more like the, he'd be more like the high-speed European sports car. So it's, Mustang versus Aston Martin. If you're looking at, a comparison of capabilities between speed and horsepower. Now, as far as Rock Supers, you've of course, most people probably know Rock Howard not from even Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, but from Capcom versus SNK 2. So if you've had the chance to sit down with that, then you've already got a good idea of, what he can do with his specials. The Raging Storm, it's good for it's good for covering against projectiles as well as dealing with dealing with aerial approaches. So anyone trying to jump in, invincibility on startup, high single hit burst damage. His level 2s, again, invincibility during the startup frames, during the startup cinematic, but also extended attacks, which also includes extensions on his Shining Knuckle as well. Give me a quick moment here to deal with that. Now, covering the mechanics, mechanics in the game, you of course have your SPG settings, and Rock's SPG attacks or his rev blows are all, both of those are basically meant to be used for, mix-ups and for mobility. Like you can actually use his mid-air rev blow to, modify the trajectory of his jump. So let's say if you have him jumping backwards and you think he's about to land on a projectile that's coming at him, you can rev blow to literally reverse which way you're going. And his standing rev blow is great for countering countering low attacks and low block strings. And also, of course, every rev blow in the game is armored. So you can absorb at least 2 hits while coming in for that attack. Now, of course, you've also got the Rev XL, like I showed earlier, being able to link enhanced specials from one to the next. Speaking of specials, there's one that I actually forgot to mention, but again, a holdover from Geese Howard, but also, one of his mainstays from the earlier games and from Capcom versus SNK 2. He also has counterattacks. Now, I don't have the dummy set up to attack, so, that demonstration is going to have to, wait for some other time. But when you're utilizing Rock's, his Rev XL, it's definitely all about, again, keeping up close, utilizing his mobility to just pour on the damage and attack from, various angles that under normal circumstances, most opponents wouldn't necessarily expect. And when I say they wouldn't expect it, I mean, since you've got so many options for, high-low mix-ups, you can of course cancel certain animations in order to say, set up for a throw or, set up for a sight switch. I mean, technically Rock has 2 or 3 different, types of runs. You have your standard forward run, which looks almost the same as, his command run, which can again also be, swapped for, say, his dashing elbow. multiple different approaches, all of them with subtle enough differences that you can use them to play some rather brutal mind tricks on your opponent if they're not keeping an eye out for it. And then there's, of course, his cross-up potential with his specials as well. So again, with Rock, mobility is the name of the game. Mobility and, of course, mobility and paying respects to his father and, paying respects to his dads. Case in point. But yeah, that right there is going to do it for Rock. A sort of speedy, a sort of speedy 101 course with Rock to kind of, match up with his emphasis on mobility and, on the fly strategy.
Cool. Do you have what's your longest combo you have with Rock? You have one to show us?
Longest one I've been able to pull off utilizing his resources looks a little something like. Oh, this is definitely going to be one that's more suited for the corner. Hang on. Lots of stuff where you can actually take advantage of canceling animations here and there. 2, 3. And then there's also one where I can literally start on the ground, transition to the air, and then land back on the ground for the finish.
Ooh. Oh yeah, it's about what, 40%, 50%?
Yep, about 50, 55.
55%. Pretty good. That's a kill. Halfway there.
Yep. And again, this is all largely rookie level 101 stuff. You're definitely going to want to spend some time practicing and getting the hang of how the beast handles.
Yeah, is he better now than he was in King of Fighters and original Garo?
Yes, much better than in Mark of the Wolves, and he's better in this than he was in KOF, at least KOF 14.
Mm-hmm.
Night and day comparison to Mark of the Wolves, and still a marked improvement over KOF 15. And in 15, he's pretty damn solid.
Yeah. Right on. Well, you got a teaser for your next character you're going to share with us?
Let's see, a teaser for whom we're going to be working with next. Well,
actually, chat. You guys have a preference on a suggestion who you want to do next?
I mean, I have an idea for who I was thinking I might do next, but yeah, I'm very much open to suggestions for characters that folks want to see.
Make a poll. And we'll have it ready by next week.
And yeah. I swear to God.
Well, oh, you're gonna make Maximilian? Got it. So wow, all right. That's a challenge. Gato's no joke.
Yeah. Because back stances and such.
That was
my definitely a challenge. But again, if more people want to see him, I'd be glad to set up a lesson plan.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thanks, man. That's you got some homework to do with Gato. I know he's one of the most complicated characters there is.
Oh yeah. Definitely got some work to put in.
All right. Well, I do, before we go here, I know we still have some time. We're going to jump right into the rhetorical here, like we did last time. Even though the image went. It's here somewhere. But Anyway, I want to pose a question to the chat. So, if you've never been part of the rhetorical is the part of the show, the segment where we ask you the what if and if it could be, and if we would you change anything in video games or anything video game related? So, for example, the last question we used was, which game series has the most iconic art direction, and is the style more important than graphics? Right, that was the last question we had last time. But this time, I want to ask this question. Let's see if it pops up here. Boom. Which video game has the best voice acting of all time, and why do you think so? So, love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, and also chat, of course, chime in. Best voice acting of all time.
There's a lot of games that I really like the voice acting for. I don't know if I could choose the best. Well, I don't know if I can make a good argument for it. One that I haven't. So 2 games come to mind off the top of my head. 3, I'll say 3. 3 games come to the top of my head. I really liked the voice acting in Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
That one was one I recently played, so that one kind of sticks out of my head a little bit. But the voice acting is really really good in it. They really get like the cadence and nuance, and you really feel emotion in their words. For something that was just like a 20-hour game that I kind of jumped through and I got it, for a little bit cheaper. Like the voice acting is fantastic in it. Another one I remember standing out in my head is Disco Elysium. The voice acting in that one is really, really good, especially like the lead character, and the NPCs are all really good too. I just remember that being really solid. And Witcher 3 for me. Not a game that I got like super deep into, but I always enjoyed the voice acting in it. And don't get me wrong, there's tons of other games that I enjoyed the voice acting for. I called out before you started playing Mass Effect, one of my favorite voice actors is Jennifer Hale. And I love FemShep specifically, like all the way through. I made that my main character because of the voice acting. I love the voice actor for that role. So that's like a specific role I really enjoyed. But yeah, that's what kind of hops out in my head, man, when you bring that up. I don't know if I could say like which one's the best, but those ones are 3 big ones for me.
All right. Yeah. Ace.
For me, voice acting wise, well, again, I just finished Expedition 33, and I would have to say the voice acting and the voice direction in that game was absolutely phenomenal. Like probably like at bare minimum my favorite this generation. But some other games that really stick out for me, taking it further back, gotta go with Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And
Solid. Yeah. Pun intended.
right. And another game from this generation that I felt had really good voice acting, and I mean just great performances, not just the comedic timing, but also the dramatic timing and the delivery, was Scarlet Nexus.
I'll do it. I don't think everybody agrees on your side.
Okay, no, I will say that for a game that for a game where translating from Korean to English hasn't quite been nailed down as efficiently as, say, Japanese to English, like with Scarlet Nexus.
Mhm.
The First Descendant does have some pretty memorable stuff.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point about individual roles that are really well voice acted. Like Christopher Judge as in God of War, like fantastic in that role. Really, really good.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned, Jennifer Hale, how she's like one of your favorite voice actresses.
Or Nolan North in the Uncharted games, especially Uncharted 4. Like really, really, I remember Nathan Drake in Uncharted 4 being really, really good.
Yep. I would say, like, if I was to pin down two voice actors who gave just like specific performances that just totally nailed it for me, it would be Kyle Hebert, specifically his performance as Lindo in the God Eater games, especially 1 and 2. Like, it was because of his performance that Lindo actually became one of my favorite companions, one of my favorite allies. But also, pretty much anything that Patrick Seitz is in, everything from Blaze Blue to Mortal Kombat, hell, DJ Combo and Killer Instinct. Like, he's got a unique voice, but also his delivery is just on point every single time.
Who was the voice actor for Andrew Ryan in BioShock 1? Because that was another one I remember. Like that role and that twist in it is so good. I just remember really liking that.
Would you kindly? Okay.
Yeah. I forget who the voice actor was for that.
Andrew Ryan, BioShock, voiced by
Armin Shimmerman.
Armin Shimmerman.
Yeah.
That's a name right there.
All right, but let me take a quick look.
Yeah, there's like amazing voice actor roles out there, but calling out a specific game, yeah, it's hard to say like consistent across the board kind of thing. Like again, I love me Mass Effect, and I love the voice acting in there, especially as you start getting into like the deeper parts of the stories and the romances. Like it's really good. I wouldn't say across the board all the voice acting is great. Like all the main cast, absolutely. But you know, consistent. Like I'd still have to go with maybe Disco Elysium or Guardians of the Galaxy, just because it was so consistently good across the board, kind of thing. I'd make an argument in that sense. I get nitpicky about it. What about you, James? You posed the question, man. You got any in mind?
Nope, I don't have one because there's
you
nothing.
Play out on mute. You play all your games on mute.
there's nothing that stands out where I would be like, it is the best. There are a lot of good ones. I would say God of War has really good ones. Also, that game has range, right? Kratos goes all the way from like sad, solemn to angry, disappointed. Like it's range, right?
Yeah, there's a reason he won an award for that role. Like,
yeah,
that's nailed it.
But like, I feel like same with you guys. It has it's based on like the character actor. To say that which game has the best voice acting, it would have to. I would say like argumentatively, I'd say RPGs would have the highest priority with this because it has the most voice. You know, like because I could be like, well, I think Street Fighter 6 has good voice acting, right? But it's just grunts and yelling, right? So, but at the same time, it's still good. Like who plays Guile in that? He's also the voice of Gara.
Wait, which character?
Travis Willingham.
Yeah,
right. So he's a great voice actor, but he doesn't make the game. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why it's hard to pick.
Andre's calling out some great actors too in their roles. I mean, calling out Steve Downes as Chief. It's always really fun to see him in interviews because he really slips into that voice really easily. It also makes me think of Jen Taylor as Cortana. Like I loved her voice acting as Cortana, especially later on. She starts getting like more emotional. She starts going through rampancy. I thought that was handled incredibly well. I loved it for that. And James, you're talking about roles like Hellblade, Setsuna's Sacrifice. Like the voice actor for that, basically the full performance, like mocap to like that's incredible range.
Yeah, I would argue like Senua's Sacrifice is pretty good.
And actually, that brings up 2 more. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, these are voice actors that made the game. Ralph Ineson and Ben Starr in Final Fantasy 16. I don't think there could have been found any 2 other characters or any 2 other actors to voice Clive and Sid. And like those 2 were just like they pretty much like they're the core of Final Fantasy 16, not just because Clive's the main character, but again, as an RPG, you've got so much range. You've got so much, there's so much material to work with that you really get to see everything from, the depths of, the rage and the sorrow that, that Clive is dealing with, to just, the comedy and the sniping back and forth, and the, brotherly jabs between Sid and Clive.
Oh man, I'm looking through lists now, and I'm just like, there's so many good things. Like Ace, you bring up some good stuff, man. Like people that really define the roles and like embody that for you. Um, Damon Clark for Handsome Jack in Borderlands 2. Like that Handsome Jack character is iconic, and the voice acting done for that like really made that kind of like charismatic but hilarious, sadistic, sympathetic kind of like bad guy. Like
Yeah.
really, really good. I forget the voice actor for the Arbiter. Was that Keith David? It was Keith David. Yeah,
David,
like
yep.
yeah, iconic for me as well. Arthur Morgan as well in Red Dead 2. Roger Clark. Like, yeah, there's some the stuff sticks with you, man. It's really good stuff.
Yep, Alistair Duncan as Senator Armstrong in Metal Gear Rising, and of course, rest in peace, Lance Reddick.
Yeah, no, Lance Reddick is very like memorable when it comes to, you hear the voice, you're like, that's Lance Reddick. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
when you hear Lou Boo's voice, you're like, that's Lou Boo. Like, yeah, like he doesn't even have to be Lou Boo. He's just another character. You're like, well, that's Lou Boo. That's his voice actor. So kind of wild.
Like Lou Boo is your CO in Monster Hunter World.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say as well, like a little soft spot now for me lately, just kind of watching them. The origin characters for Baldur's Gate 3, the actors for that have been like publishing videos of them playing D&D together. Like their banter and wit as they like voice act their characters playing D&D, hilarious. Like really, really good too for those roles. It's crazy, man.
You ever watch what is that? What's the one with the guy that plays McCree? His voice actor.
Critical Role.
Yeah, Critical Role. That's like those are just all the voice acting, pretty much. So.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of playing, everybody else playing the same stuff as always. I know mine hasn't changed because I this month I'm focusing on Mass Effect.
Let's see. For me, finished Expedition 33. That was a wild ride. Started jumping back into Exoprimal again.
Nice. Love it.
Having some fun with that. Punching dinosaurs again.
I'm still down. If you want to do community night for Exoprimal, just send me an invite, brother. That's all you got to do.
But also, I decided to go ahead and when it finally released after its 20-year development hell adventure, I actually picked up and started playing through Captain Blood.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Blue was telling me about it. He beat it. So, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on it so far? It's God of War with pirates.
Okay. Well, now I expect a review from this, a full-on review.
Like, okay, let me rephrase that. It's PS2 God of War with pirates.
Nothing wrong with that. You could have said Dante's Inferno with pirates. I would have been like, okay.
And for better or worse, it comes with all the PS2 jank as well.
Oh yes, I love it. Love it.
Jagos, I saw you say something about a Dragon Age tabletop game. Send me some details on it. I'd love to hear about that. Not to jump into your game, but I'd love to hear about it.
I remember they also had a Dragon Age like mobile game, which is kind of fun when it was first out. I think it came out when like Origins had come out, but then like it fizzled away.
Yeah, but also really quickly, just one more thing as far as the rest of my now playing. I've been digging back through some of like the older PS4 and PS5 games where I just like sat down and played the demos and thought I might pick that up, I might not, I'm not too sure. And one in particular that's been sticking out for me is Ultra Age.
Devil May Cry, pretty much, yeah.
Like I'm actually thinking I might go ahead and pull the trigger and pick that one up. It's only for like $30 right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a good game, especially if you get it on sale. Like the gameplay on it's really good. I did play the demo, and I'm like, I needed to play something that wasn't DMC5, but I had already finished 4, right? So it definitely is underrated. Needs more exposure, if anything. I would love to watch your playthrough of that. Super cool.
Fair enough. I'll see what my finances are looking like, and if I got the spare cash for it, I'll pick it up.
You guys have any upcoming games you guys are like looking forward to? I know like the past 2 months have been kind of a shower of new releases here. So
New
anything in
releases
particular?
that I am not playing. As I've said before, man, I am less than 4 weeks from our daughter being born, so I haven't had time to do much besides prepare. We played a game of Civ 6, James and I, which was a blast as always. Just kind of mess around with the AI in there. We're getting pretty close to finishing that game, so I'm excited to finish that. I went back to play a little more 2 Point Museum because I'm getting close to finally finishing that one off, which is great. I haven't had time just to dive into anything else. There's plenty of
Yeah.
stuff I'm looking forward to, man. And at some point, I really want to play Expedition 33. I really want to play South of Midnight because I've heard so many good things about it.
Yeah.
So I want to give that a shot as well. So plenty of stuff that once the baby's here, my spare time outside of feedings and stuff, I'm going to be checking out some of those games that have been on the list. So I'm building
I
a
was
list now,
gonna say,
man.
I was gonna say that's perfect for like once you're watching your baby that you'd be playing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I won't be able to take my family leave until later in the year, so I'm still going to be working pretty regularly and trying to balance that for a bit. But anytime where I'm watching and in charge and need to burn some time and stay awake, that's going to be those games just to kind of get caught up on it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Andre. I'm not gonna have time to get back into metaphor with that. There's not enough time in the day. I'm gonna have to put the baby down and play for 10 minutes and have to get the baby again. Or it's gonna feel like 10 minutes, but it'll be 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I think as soon as I finish Mass Effect 1, I still want to play through the rest of it, like
You should.
on my own channel, right? Like not, I will, because I said I will play all of it, and I will.
Yeah.
But
I
if
might
I'm
just watch
feeling,
you play because I love doing that, man. I was able to get on my bike and work on. I put
yeah,
on like an hour and a half endurance ride. I'm like, I'm just gonna watch James do this, and I'll chat and chat. That was fun.
you just like me talking shit to my teammates because Ashley's racist. That's why.
No, I mean, she's spacious. She doesn't like
Yeah.
anyone in space.
100%. I was the pure reactions coming from me when I play this game. I'm like, this mother.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
He's the toppest of G's. You've been
bro,
missing
I'm
nowadays.
like, get him, Garrus. Like, there's no like holding back. I'm like, I'm
It's been
all
fun
about it.
to yeah, dude. It's been fun to see you react, just like with Garrus, and also like some of the shit that Rex says,
Yeah.
and just seeing you react to it. I'm like, "Ooh, I was just like that too, man. Like I threw up that clip of it too. Like that was so good.
I can't wait for more, of course. And it's like I guess, like I said, I'm looking forward to playing the other ones because I hear the gameplay gets better, right? Because man, I heard Insanity mode was super hard, and I feel like I would tear out the rest of my hair if I played them. So,
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
It's a badge of honor for me. It's like getting a platinum and getting insanity achievements or medals. It's the same as like buckling down and getting platinum in all the Yakuza games. It's like, why? You don't need to do that to yourself.
Yeah. Unless you really love it and you really want it, like,
And I get that. I really love it too. I don't have the patience.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
going to
true.
learn mahjong. I'm sorry.
That's actually one of the rhetorical questions I'll be asking in the future. So looking forward to that.
Is why won't Nick play mahjong to get platinum?
Yeah. All right. Anything else before I do one more plug for St. Jude?
Plug away, my man. This was a good one.
Go for it.
All right, guys. What you see on the screen there is the QR code for St. Jude's Play Live campaign details, and if you want to donate, it's right on. And you'll have a really cool banner on my stream saying that you donated. So it's super fun to show. And we're about 25% on our goal. We're at 125 to our $500 goal. So that's our goal for our community, just our community. I just looked not too long ago, and our total goal as a campaign is about $2 million. The fundraising event currently right now, as of 5:13, 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, is $1.17 million right now. So we're getting really close. Only 900,000 more to go. So it's pretty much, I feel like this campaign is like when everybody is raising their hands for the Spirit Bomb, right? And the Spirit Bomb is St. Jude. So this is how I feel about this campaign, and I love doing this every year. So donate if you can. Tell your friends. Tell anybody. I already shared it with people at work. I'm sure they're sick of me already, so I'm looking forward to it. any more details there. But yeah, but as far as that is pretty much our show for this night. And another wrap up for class 31 at the Gaming Academy. As always, thanks for tuning in, chatting with us, keeping the gaming spirit alive. I think the other day, ChatGPT called you guys pixel perfect professors. So you guys are pretty cool. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and keep supporting our St. Jude Play Live campaign. More details down there. I'll be back maybe tomorrow night for a couple hours, but the big one's going to be on Thursday, and also this weekend for more Mass Effect. Keep following my X there for more updates. And as always, until then, class dismissed. Be good to each other, and of course, keep gaming. All right. Have a good night. Take care. Oh,